Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide are headed down to Death Valley this weekend to face the LSU Tigers in what's definitely the biggest game in the SEC West so far. If LSU wins, they take the lead. Drew, this Alabama team, we'll start with them. They're definitely not the Alabama team we've been used to seeing the last, decade or so. And a lot of critics are saying that this is the worst coaching performance Nick Saban's had with the team since his tenure at Alabama. Specifically, when you look at this offense, what are the main things that this offense does? How do they go about putting points on the board?
Well, first things first, before I even get into talking about Alabama, let's give LSU a lot of credit, especially with the way they started the season. For us to be in this game now and seeing that LSU could take the lead in the SEC West and control their own destiny, if they win this game, is honestly incredible after losing games to Florida State and absolutely getting ran out of the building by the Tennessee Volunteers. But anyways, let's give LSU their credit. But going to Alabama, their offense, the offense is, yeah, like you said, it hasn't been the same as it has been in years past, and we've mentioned it in other videos. And Bryce Young, I think, has done his job. I think Bryce Young's done all he could do. He's put up some amazing numbers and had some really great performances. Obviously, he's missed a couple games with some injuries. And when Milroe was in Alabama's backup quarterback, it just seemed like a completely different team. It's an offense that still heavily relies on Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs is really good, but I don't think he's going to be your answer to carry that Alabama offense all the way. And Alabama's main problems is the receivers, in my personal opinion, other than the penalties they have. But the receivers have not been what Alabama is used to. They don't have a Henry Ruggs or a Jerry Jeudy anymore. I mean, I don't even know. You have Jermaine Burton, Ja'Cory Brooks, I think his name is. There's just no standout guy on the Alabama receiving core where you just name him and you're like, oh yeah, that's the guy right there. That guy's going to be a first round NFL draft pick. And it's just crazy to hear about because Alabama's just been known for developing these wide receivers and getting all these speedy guys. Alabama still has a top 20 offense overall, and they're capable of putting up points. But, when you look at Alabama traveling to LSU, we see in Alabama play on these road games, and they just don't perform the same as they do at home. And we'll get to more than that in a minute. But, Aiden, I want to talk about LSU's offense as well. An offense has really came a long way and is on fire these past couple weeks, putting up 45 points on both Florida and Ole Miss. Two really amazing wins, and I think LSU's starting to put it together. And again, let's give Brian Kelly credit. Even after the Tennessee loss, I was hard on him because I didn't think Brian Kelly coached well in that game at all. And he came out and he said the coaching has to be better. And it seems like he's improved the team. So, talking about their offense, Aiden, what about this LSU offense allowed them to be so successful these past couple games?
Yeah, when Brian Kelly came to LSU and was putting on that, fake Southern accent, and, had that whole facade he was pulling off, I instantly lost all trust and belief in Brian Kelly, and especially after that Tennessee game, which he did hold accountability for. Like you mentioned, he did say, look, it was on the coaches. We got out coached. And since that loss, LSU's bounced back, and every single week throughout the whole entire season, they've looked better and better whenever they're playing against, the same caliber of competition. Like you mentioned, it's to start the season, the offense was struggling. They could not get anything going. The main thing to me when I looked at those early games, LSU didn't have an identity. They didn't know what they were doing. And that a part of the reason that is because the O-line, they didn't have a consistent starting O-line group. They were putting guys in different positions. Injuries were, forcing guys to sit out. But the last two games especially, Jaden Daniels has had all day to throw, and that's had a major impact on the offense. Now they're able to move the ball down the field. The run game has been really solid for them the last couple of games. They got a stable of running backs that they lean on that, are great with yards after contact. And that has allowed Jaden Daniels to have so much more confidence, and he's way more comfortable in the pocket. And now he's able to make reads and throw it to open receivers. And specifically, when I look at the LSU game, the halftime adjustment that the LSU coaching staff made was beautiful. Ole Miss was sitting in cover 4, giving up everything underneath. And what did LSU do? They started running 5-yard, 10-yard hitches and just taking what the defense gave them. And that allowed them to move the ball down the field and stay in front of schedule and, getting third and shorts and convertible third downs. And they were able to put up points on the board.
Yeah, and LSU is a team that has a lot of talent. I mean, there's no one that can deny that. LSU's always had a bunch of talent. They recruit very well, and LSU's primary strength is the receivers. So I think there was a lot of questions about this LSU offense earlier in the season, and there was a lot of drama about the receivers. I think there was one receiver who deleted all his LSU content on his Instagram and all that. So there was a lot of stuff going on for this LSU team early in the season. That's why I keep giving them so much credit for what they've done, because they've endured all that, and now they're winning big time football games. I mean, you could say what you want about Ole Miss, but nonetheless, it's a top 10 win. And not only did LSU win that game, but they really dominated in that, especially in the second half, running away with it. And to see LSU putting up 45 points in the last two conference games, that's a good sign heading into this game. That's a lot of confidence you can ride on in this game. I think Alabama, their defense, people talk about their offense not being what they used to be. I think Alabama's defense is even below average compared to what Alabama's known to be. And you hear all these Alabama fans all the time. You've heard them the past few weeks. They're the biggest Tennessee fans right now because they want Tennessee in the rematch in the SEC title game. But I'm here to tell you now, you got to make it there first. You cannot overlook the rest of this Alabama schedule. They go on the road to LSU, and then they're on the road to Ole Miss. And this LSU game is going to be tougher than most people think. So Alabama's 13-point favorites. Aiden, it's a night game in Death Valley, and we've talked about this before. Death Valley is a very, very tough place to play. Now, when they played Tennessee at home, it was a noon game, and it's just pretty much common sense that home games and home field advantages is just more effective at nighttime than it is at noon. This is the biggest game for LSU by far. This is their national championship pretty much on the line. A chance to go to Atlanta after the start of their season. This is going to be the craziest environment LSU has had in a while. So, Aiden, when you take all these things in perspective, Alabama's 13-point favorites, have struggled against teams on the road. LSU is going to have a crazy environment. What's going to happen, man?
Yeah, 13 points is a lot when you're talking about LSU and Death Valley. And, I think that the image of Death Valley is a little bit tainted after what Tennessee did recently, just blew them out the water. But let's not forget, LSU, they dug themselves into that hole against Tennessee. They fumbled the opening kickoff, which special teams has been an issue for LSU all year. They're going to have to lock in on that side of the ball when you're talking about beating the Nick Saban-ran Alabama team. You have to be squared away in all facets of the game. So special teams, LSU is going to have to lock down. But you've mentioned it. This Alabama team has been completely different on the road this year. And in my opinion, I think Nick Saban is without a doubt the best college coach of all time. Coming off of a bye week, he's heard all the fuss that the press is saying about they can't go on the road and win. They can't go on the road and win. 13 points is a lot of points. And I don't know. I just trust Nick Saban coming off a bye week. This LSU offense, they've looked better and better each week. But this Alabama team is no joke. This is going to be, I think, a real punch in the face for LSU. They've been on this, this good momentum, but I think it stops this game. I'm going to take Alabama and Nick Saban.
Yeah.
And hold on, before you get into your prediction, one of the other things defensively with LSU's D line, they got to get a pass rush going. Mm-hmm. If you against Anthony Richardson was running around. He was able to do what he wants. Bryce Young, everybody knows this. If you let him run around, he's going to find an open receiver and dot you up. LSU's DBs have been forced to cover for 4, 5, 6, 7 seconds because they can't get a pass rush. That cannot happen against Alabama, or Bryce Young's going to dot you up.
Yeah, and when you look at these two teams, Alabama and LSU, Alabama clearly is the better team. There's no one that could say otherwise. Alabama, Nick Saban, and that's a great point you mentioned about Nick Saban coming off a bye week. Great coaches, usually in great teams, play their best after a bye week. Bye weeks are very beneficial for great teams. And I'm not saying that LSU's not a great team, but when you look at these two coaches, Brian Kelly and Nick Saban, you just kind of have to give the edge to Nick Saban. But at the same time, you have to look at this game. It's just a huge rivalry. It's very hard to predict blowouts and 2 touchdown wins and big rivalry games like this. Just look at last year. They went into Alabama and only lost by 6 points, if I remember right. I think the final was 20-14. And, there's just so much on the line. 13 points is just a lot of points, in my personal opinion. Now, if Alabama plays their greatest game and LSU plays their greatest game, I think Alabama can win the game by 2 touchdowns or more than that. But I really do think you're going to get a really good LSU team in this game. And I'm not saying that Alabama's going to come in and play bad or anything. And there's a lot of experience. Alabama's had a lot of road game experience this year in some big-time games, so they're not going to be intimidated by this Death Valley environment. I'm not saying that it's not going to make an impact, but this Alabama team, the coaches, this is the team you'd want to go into games like this and win. But I don't know. It's just a gut feeling that is telling me that LSU is going to cover this 13 points. I think Alabama does win. Alabama could win by 10 points. I think that's a pretty realistic score, in my opinion. But like you said, LSU is going to have to find ways to get a pass rush because there's been a couple times this year where LSU's kind of struggled with getting to the quarterback, and that's where the secondary starts getting torched a little bit. And then LSU's receivers and Jaden Daniels, of course, are going to have to make some big-time plays in this game to even have a chance to beat this Alabama team. But that's going to wrap it up for this video, guys. Let us know down below in the comment section of what you guys think. This is a huge game, and I can't stress enough how crazy it is that LSU can win this game and have a shot to play in Atlanta. But let us know what you think about how Brian Kelly turned this team around. What's your opinions on Brian Kelly? And that's going to be it for this video, guys. See you in the next one.